What are you doing today? Welcome to my photo editing live stream where you can submit your images before the stream starts and I edit them here for you live using DxO Photolab 9. I'm on version 9.3.2 as of today and running on a Windows machine. Uh, the idea is just basically so you can see the tools and my workflow for editing images, and hopefully you can pick up a few ideas along the way. And if you have any questions, every 2 or 3 images, I like to just pause for a couple of minutes and answer any questions in the chat section that you might have about, Photolab or my thought process in the editing. And, I don't do any critiquing at all. I just simply edit the photos as if they were, as if I took them and if they were my very own. So you'll typically see a lot of cropping and editing that, are very, very subjective. So there's no right or wrong here in the editing um, in of itself. Is just just to show you really the tools and again the workflow. And I'll try and think out loud as I'm doing these things. Um, and if I see anything in the settings, the camera settings and things that I think might improve the shot, I'll mention those as well. Yeah, I'm a affiliate for DxO, so if you'd like to support the channel, you can use the links down below. Right now, for the next few days, they have a promotion going on. It started, I think, about a week ago. If you buy any 2 of their products, you get 20% off. And if you use my coupon code, which is just simply RobTrek, you can get additional 5% on top of that. So it's 25% off any pair of DxO products. And if you're trying to decide between 2, I'd recommend Photolab and Nik Collection. If you already have a photo editor you like using, then I would recommend PureRaw and Nik Collection. If you really enjoy film simulations, like true film stock from the film days, they also have a film pack. But I find the Nik Collection is the most versatile because they include like some overlaying and some HDR and lots of creative filters in there to get you just about any look that you want. Because in my opinion, there's really no way to really truly duplicate the original film stock. Even though they try to come as close as they can, it's just not the same. So that's why I always recommend Nik Collection, because it has plenty of film simulations there, but they're not true to any specific film stock. But there's a lot of similarities, right? So PureRaw has the denoising and optical corrections, which are kind of the signature technology of DxO. So if you already have an editor, that you like, then, like Lightroom or Affinity or Capture One, whatever it is, PureRaw and Nik Collection is a nice combo. But I prefer DxO Photolab as my primary editor, and it has the optical corrections and denoising built in. So it has the core technologies built in there, and I like to use Nik Collection for my HDR type things, where I do exposure bracketing and exposure blending. It's really a very, very good tool, and it also has the signature silver effects for black and white post-processing. So keep that in mind as you're watching, and then also I forgot. I'm still getting over the flu here, so my fever broke on Tuesday, finally, Tuesday night, but I still have a lot of the symptoms, so I'm a little bit tired, and my voice is a little bit hoarse as well. So without further ado, I see a lot of you here already. Good to see everyone. And I will just start with the first one here. And this is an image from Larry. And okay, so we're at a train station. And interesting composition. I'm curious if you were trying to center this, because you did a really good job lining up the tracks with this train here. You're perfectly centered here. But there's it's a little bit off center overall. So I'm just trying to get a feel for what you wanted in the composition. As you can see, it's just slightly off center. So if I just move this over, assuming we want this train to be front and center, I don't know. But one of the first things I do actually is I apply a basic preset, which is optical corrections and denoising to every image. That's what I always do first. And then I think about the composition, the exposure, if it's underexposed or overexposed, and then the white balance. You know, just sort of these very high level global type things when I'm editing. And in the composition, I'm debating if we need anything over here on the right side, because this bus is a little bit out of place for me in one sense, but it's right in the frame, so it's going to be hard to take that out. Unless we do, I think a vertical might be the way to go here. And the question is, do I put the train right in the center? Or do I kind of try to put it up into the upper thirds? And I always look at my edges, so I'm paying attention to what's down in here. Maybe right about there. I think that'll do. So I got a little bit of a corner here, some leaves in the corner here, a leading line here, and of course the two leading lines in here. It's just this bus is a little bit, I might brush this out. You know, just cover it with some trees or something. I think that's good. Now, black and white is always interesting with trains, because these red accents in the front here are pretty cool, but I'm wondering in black and white if I can separate sort of the tones here a little more. I think I'll go a little bit creative and go black and white, and then let's try and separate the tones. I mean, the way it is now, I think it's pretty much ready, but let's see if we can make it a little bit gritty. So I almost hardly need any. Let's go over here. Add some micro contrast and clear view. And just push the tones a little bit back and forth. Okay. Let's add a vignette. I'm just going to center. And the way you can add a vignette if you don't have Film Pack installed is just use a control point, set the mask selectivity sliders, chroma and luma to 0, and then just invert it. And then you can do it a couple of ways. You can just simply pull the exposure down. As you can see, that'll bring the vignette in. Or you can selectively pull tones in. I generally I like to do it this way, just so it looks a little more natural. Let me add a little bit of exposure back in. Okay. Let me see. That's without the vignette. And okay, I think that works. The only other thing I might do is soften some of the trees here. So let me use the same control point and just pull the micro contrast off the sides there. Maybe even regular contrast. I just want it to be a little bit softer. I may even just add a little bit of blur. Let me pull it out just a little bit more. And then let's pull in this, and then I'm just going to add a dash of light on the headlights here. Whoops. Let me shrink this in. And some clear view to make it a little bit glossy. Some micro contrast. Let's do the same thing, or let's add a little bit of light down in here. So I'm going to push the speculars, the midtones, the shadows a bit. And whenever I work with these selective tones, I try to keep as straight a line as possible in these dots here. Just add a little bit in here and here. Okay. The only thing that's a little bit off is this bus. I mean, generally, I like to leave things in that are in the scene, but I'm just going to brush this out, just using a clone brush. Oops, let me set my opacity up. We'll just something like that. And then just a couple of traces here. Okay, good enough. I mean, that's kind of an optional thing there. But I'm gonna make the front. I'm gonna try one more thing. Oops. What I want to do, tighten up the luminosity. Just want to bring out some of the textures here in this wood. Okay. I think that's it. So I'm going to export this. Where's my export? Oh, export to disk. Original DxO. Turn off the resizing. sRGB, okay. And we'll give that 10 or 15 seconds to export. Oh, I see Walter's here. How's it going, Walter? And Happy New Year, Claire and Heather. Good to see you. Heather's asking, would Nick be helpful on the black and white train? Yes, Nick will give you some very creative black and whites on this. Maybe later I can show you some options Nick would give. Okay, let me reset this and we'll set this as the reference. And I hit the F9 key to push the panels out to the side. But there's the original on the left. And there's my edit on the right. So I think that came out pretty good. Just a little bit of balancing, because like I said, it just ever so slightly off center here. So I had to decide that I want to take the right side of this image or the left side or just go center. And I think the center worked best. Okay, I hope you like that edit. All right, let's go to the next one. Walter has a few questions on this particular edit. How would this train look in a square crop? Well, simple enough to try. We just have to just do one by one and recenter it. I would probably put it front and center. So square crop is fine. And then does the added texture of the railroad crosswalk take focus away from the train engine? No, I don't think so. I think it's important to have textures and it's subjective, right? But I like the idea of blend or mixing textures together that don't conflict. So, you know, you have this very smooth texture of the train, then this very rough texture of the crosswalk here, and then you have some gravel, and then you have this kind of chaos of trees in the background. So these are three very different textures that I think go well together. So that's why I do it. You know, I try to give a little bit of depth to the image. So the foreground here with the crosswalk, then the train, and then in the background the trees and skies, right? And a little bit of this roof line. But I think it's nice. It's a nice separation of textures at each depth, right? Foreground, midground, background. And each section has sort of a different texture. So that was my thought process, and I didn't verbalize that while I was editing. It just kind of comes second nature to me now. But you know, that's why I did that. But I get your point. Like you don't want to just distract from the main subject. But I wanted to try to create some depth of three-dimensionality to the image. So I think helping separate via textures helps with that. Okay, and again, that's all subjective. All right, let's go to the next one. And let's see, we have another train station. Is this a real one though? Yeah, it is. It looks almost like a mini train. But I think that's a legit train station. Really interesting architecture. So we have sort of this swooping roof line behind this tree that goes around up here. So again, I think I need to do a vertical crop. So I'm going to do a vertical. So a basic preset. And I'm gonna see what a vertical does. Now I get there's some nice colors here of the fall leaves, like this red and green. And it kind of complements the red and oranges here on the train, it looks like. But there's just too much. There's too much. There's just enough red here. And then I'm gonna, wow. I don't know. Maybe right in here. So you only had your 8 to 25 here, so you couldn't really zoom in anymore. But I feel like something like this just sort of wraps the train a little nicer than the way the trees were framing it. And then I'm just gonna do a spot check here in the shadows and see what's in here. Okay, there's some stuff to be had in there. And we're gonna need to temper the skies. I'm gonna emphasize the colors here. So I'm gonna saturate these colors a bit, bring up some of the shadows in here, just where the light's kind of kissing along the fronts of some of this, the beams and this rail. And then maybe temper the highlights here and on the top and bring out some of the textures of the train. Okay. And I think I'll warm this up quite a bit too. It's a very daylight balanced shot, but I'd like it to be a lot warmer. So let's see if we can bring the sky in a bit. And then I'm gonna globally, let me check the white balance. If I can give it a little warmer feel, something like that. And then I'm gonna go back into create a new mask. I'm gonna be very selective here. I'm gonna put the control point right on the brightest part of these beams. Like this. And then I'm going to tighten up the Luma mask. And I might have to do the chroma mask as well, because I'm picking up some of the trees. Okay, let's do that. Oh, and there's a beam here. Make this smaller. And a beam down here. So let's start with the highlights. Go into the midtones, go into the shadows. Okay, let's pull that back. Oops. I think right about there is good. Let me see how that looks. So off, on. Okay, we just need a little bit more down here. Maybe let's make a new mask. Maybe I'll just use a little bit of a brush. Let me turn the flow down. Do the same thing. Right in there. Yes, William, I did get a family photo. I think it's this one, right? Okay. All right, I think that's enough for this part. Now I'm going to try and temper some of the highlights. So you can see I'm just working with the let me try brush. I'm working with the exposure on a very local basis because the overall exposure is fine. So I'm just using a selective brush here. Let me just clean up here a little bit. And let's just pull the highlights in. Do the same thing with the top of the train. Okay, maybe about there. Let's add some micro contrast. All right. And I think we're good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and separate this gravel a little bit more. So let me see if the AI brush will pick it out. Let's see. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to maybe desaturate it a bit. And then give it some micro contrast. Then let's try let's pick that. And I'm just using the AI brush to select the cars. And I'm adding submasks as I'm adding each car. Whoops, this one didn't. Let me try again. There we go. These are good. Why is this? Let me do a rectangle tool. It's not quite selecting this one train the way I want it to. Okay. I'm gonna add some clear view. Oh, come on. This I accidentally created. My bad. All right. All right. Let's go back. Let's add a clear view and some micro contrast and a little bit of vibrancy. Okay, now I'm going to crank the reds maybe. Yeah, right about there. All right, something about this composition just still doesn't jive with me. Okay. And I just want to make this tree area a little bit darker. And this red up here a little brighter. And a little more saturation. Okay, and I think that's it. So I'm going to export this. I'm just using the same settings as last time's. And then let's go ahead and reset and set this as the reference F9. All right, so there's the original. There's just all of these leaves over here, or trees. I just don't think added anything to the frame. So I just tried to focus on what's right here. And they were a little bit washed out, just being in direct sunlight like this. So that's why I tried to bring back some of the color and contrast directly. But that's the final edit. All right, let's see. And then of course, just desaturating the gravel a little bit. All right, and okay, this one here is from John Lloyd. And Walter says, and Larry, nice edit. Thank you, Larry. Just looking at the chat real quick. Walter says, terrific job. Oh, thanks. And then Heather says, after you edit a photo, do you have to export to then be able to see the unedited photo and the edited photo? Yes, generally that you do need to do that. So, because while you're editing the photo, you're not really seeing, the noise reduction being applied and the very fine sharpening that DxO does during the noise reduction process. So you have to export it to see the final image. So I export it as a JPEG, and then I reset the original image, and then I compare them side by side using the use image as reference. So I'll go through that a little bit slower on this image, and explain it a little better as I'm doing it. And then Mark says, sometimes I have to brighten the scene before the AI will recognize the object. Oh, that's a good tip. I didn't think of that. And oh, Shakave is here. Good to see you. And Bamsim says, can you send me the edit? All right, I can do that. Just email me. And looks like Fabanici's design, yes. And you can create a virtual copy and reset the original. Oh, that's another way to do it, right? But the virtual copy will still not, you don't really need to create a virtual copy, but I can see where you might need to do that sometimes. But a virtual copy is still not going to show you the denoising effects to its full extent. You have to export it to get the denoising fully applied. You're just going to see sort of a preview of the denoising, but it's nowhere near as good as actually exporting it and having the denoise apply. So this image is a 5000 ISO. This would be a good example. All right, so let's apply basic preset. Again, this is just optical corrections and denoising. It's a little bit flat, so we're going to definitely increase the contrast. It's almost like you're shooting through a piece of glass, or I'm only guessing, but it feels like you're shooting through something, maybe some grass, because it's just a little bit soft. Either that or your lens is really dirty. And you're zoomed out to 324 millimeters on a full frame, so, but yeah, definitely a little bit of a loss of detail here. Because this image should be tack sharp. All right, let me try a little bit of clear view on a global scale first. Let's try micro contrast and some clear view. And we need to do a little bit of horizon correction. And it's very important to do cropping and geometry changes like horizon and keystoning and things like that before you do any local editing and adjustments. Because sometimes the local edits don't follow the geometry if you make changes later, and then you have to adjust all your local edits. I feel like that now the waterline looks level. And I think composition-wise, we're okay. Let me just see. Okay, so let's see if we can separate this leopard. So I'm going to darken this exposure a bit. And then let's see if I can AI this leopard and just bring him up a bit. Okay. And a little more micro contrast and sharpening there. All right. Now let's do some very tight local adjustments on the eyes, or the eye-ish area. Get some clear view in there. And some contrast. And maybe just a push. Just a little bit there, and the highlights. And then let's make the nose a little bit pinker. Try that with some. And then a little bit on the teeth. And just a touch in the ears. All right, there we go. That's looking better. Now let's make the water a little bit glossier. So some clear view, pull the blacks in. You push the highlights a bit. A little bit of contrast. And then let's just throw a few spots in of shadows. And I'm going to tighten up the chroma mask, which is color. Okay. And actually, let's throw in a few more up here. Okay, I'm going to go back to the tiger's mask or the leopard mask. Where is that? That was very early on. Let's just try some vibrancy there. And a little bit of a pull on the highlights, maybe. No, I need something a little more softer. So let's just darken this side a little bit. A little bit less there. Down here. Make the tiger just a bit warmer. Where were we at? 43. Let's go to about there. And then let's add a little warmth overall. I think that's it. All right, so I'm going to do export, and then I'll show you what I mean about, because right now noise reduction, everything's applied, but I'll show you what I mean about seeing the preview versus seeing the actual export. So if I do a split view, so this is the edit over here on the left. And I'm going to compare it against, yeah. So this is the exported image here on the left side. And this is the preview on the right side. It's very, very subtle. But this is a cleaner image than the preview that you get while you're editing. It doesn't show too well on this particular example. But like if you look behind this leg here, you can see there's a lot more detail here, you know, than there is on this side. Hopefully you can see that. Like look at the fur. There's more lines in the fur and stuff. So it's always better to export. But all I need to do is just reset the original one, and now I can compare completely. Well, let me show you one other way. Right now I'm comparing the original unedited image against the edit, but this is the preview edit, not the export. So I'm just comparing the edit against the preview. But if I'm going to compare it against the export, which is the output, now I can reset the original. We can compare. But anyway, hopefully that makes sense. So here's the original on the right. Let me and then yeah, of course my edit on the left. Like I said, it felt like I feel like you're shooting through something that's causing sort of this uneven contrast in the image. So that's why I had to do so much work with the contrast and creating these dark spots just to give a little perception of depth, and then saturate the colors a little because all the colors seem to be washed out as well. But overall, I think that's right. I'm not sure, Shakabe, when you say, is there a halo on the tiger's back or is it my screen? I don't see a halo on the tiger's back. But okay, let's go to the next one because I have a lot of images today, so I need to get through them kind of quickly. And I'm still going to take a couple hours to get through them. Let's see, we have one here from Hans. And okay, we have a castle in the background with some, what are those, cows in the foreground. I like these trees. And it's kind of on a hill, so it feels like I don't really need to do a horizon correction, but it's a little bit on a hill, making it feel a little bit off. Let me think. Let me apply basic preset first. Let's just bring the sky in a bit. Huh. Maybe a slight tilt on the horizon. I'm just not sure what direction to go here. That's maybe too wide. I think I'm gonna go square. Let me just see. No, I'll stay color. Because I want to be able to see the cows and this castle a little better. They're just too far away in the frame when I'm doing a full frame. But if I crop into a square, I think we're okay. So let's see if we can temper the grass a little bit. Because the light, this is kind of backlit. This is the problem here. I don't know. Let me go back to. Let me look at this because I really like these trees. I think this is a better way to go. Let me just see if I can balance this a little bit better. I just can't seem to get this. See, this brings the cows really up to the front, but I'm not crazy about this negative space over here. It's very heavy on the right side. So if I can, I just need to balance it. It's just really, really heavy on the right. All right, I'm going to go with this. Let's make a new mask for the grass. Just pull that in a bit. And just use a brush. Doesn't have to be too precise. I want to give this area a little bit more texture. Maybe I can do the same with the tree. Nah, that doesn't look right. All right. Then I'm going to add a dash of light in here. Maybe a little bit of warmth. Bring that back down. Okay, then let's just drop the light a little bit in some select places. Tighten up the luma just a bit and the chroma. Add some light back in here. A little tighter chroma and luma. Add some warmth. And some micro contrast. I need a separate one. Need to bring these shadows in a bit. Okay. And then go back to this mask here. Something here. Okay, perfect. Let me see where we're at. Okay. It's a bit too much there. All right, I'm going to call it there. Oh, hi, Mark. Yeah, I'll try and verbalize a little bit. I'm sorry. I am trying to get through a lot of photos today, though. But I'll try and verbalize on the next one a little bit more. I did kind of rush through this one because there's a lot of things I was trying to do at once. Okay, let's go ahead and reset and do a side-by-side here. Okay, so yeah, this is a pretty wide scene, and I just couldn't balance it the way I wanted to because it's very, very heavy here on the right side for me. And then over here is a lot of negative space. So I had to bring these cows forward a little bit so they're more in the foreground. But I also wanted to see the castle more. So I added light to the cows and the castle, basically. And then, you know, the tree line back here, just to give a little separation between this tree and the mountains or these hills in the background. So I think a slider might be a better way to kind of view it. But you see how the cows are just kind of flat together with the grass, but here they stand out a little more because I added some light right in this area here. So this image overall a little bit flat, right? And now this has some just a little more dynamic this way. I might back off the light a little bit on the castle here. I overdid it just a little bit, but I think the main thing is the cows here now stand out really nicely, I think, along with this separation of the grass, sort of this dead grass versus the green grass. Because in the original, you know, they're about the same tonality. They're different colors, but they're about the same tone in terms of luminance. But now I brighten these up a lot more, and then I try to darken the grass. But okay, very good. Let's go to the next one. This one is from William. So, let's do a basic preset. Okay, that fixed the distortion. We still have a little bit of camera distortion. Let's see if we can just do perspective. Okay. Let me apply perspective, but then just back it off a little bit. Okay. And let's do smart lighting, and I'm going to do spot weighted because it'll detect the faces. Oops, uh-oh. There we go. I can add some more faces in here, but I don't think we need to. Okay. So basically what smart lighting does when you have face detect on is it will not change the brightness of the face when you select them. It's going to lock that brightness in for the faces. And then it's going to brighten everything around it to try to balance the luminance in the scene, because it's pretty high dynamic range, right? We got this really strong light source here and a very bright ceiling, of course. And these people in the front row are sitting in front of the light, and these people in the back are sitting, you know, they're behind the light. So you got a dark front and a very bright background. So I'm just trying to balance that first. And then we're going to have to deal with the white balance. So right now I'm just dealing with exposure, and then we're going to work on the white balance. So maybe just a control line. We'll just do a linear push. Okay, so now the people in the front are about the same as the people in the back. All right, now let's make a new mask. Let's see if we can temper this light up here just a bit. I'm not going to be able to do too much. All right, now I'm going to change the color because people's faces are a little bit red in this. So I'm going to change my rendering from natural to portrait 1. Portrait 1 tends to warm up the faces a little bit and make them not so red. So I think that helps. And, you know, a little fill flash would have been perfect here. Gosh, this one's going to take some work. So what we want to do is let me just pull some reds back on this guy a little bit. Okay. Then let's go back. Each person's face. I'm just going to give a little bit of brightness. Except this guy is a little bit too bright. There we go. And then I doubt I can do it, but I'm going to try. I'm going to go to each person's eyes. And I'm just clicking on the move zoom window here, up here, just to get to each person's face quickly rather than using the mouse to scroll around. All this might be in vain though. I'm just going to try it though, because everybody's so small in the frame. Okay. So let's try highlights first. Okay, that's not going to work. These guys, I'm just trying to make people's eyes a little bit whiter. I missed one. Okay. Right up in here, we need to. Okay, let me see how that looks. All right, that helped just a tiny bit. So that's without, and then that's with it. Just a touch. All right. Maybe actually this lady up front just a little bit smaller. I just want to add just a glint in the eye. All right. I should have cropped this a little bit before I started, but whoops. Let me go back to the crop tool. Let's try a 3x2. So we don't need to really see all of that ceiling. A little bit. control line, this one, need to make this a little bit warmer. Because this blue light, it's covered in a blue, so it's casting a lot of blue onto the people in the back. So I'm just going to try and temper that a little bit. Because like I said, the people in the front are in front of the light, so they're not getting this bluish cast onto them. I might need to bring this down. All right. I wonder if I can... Oh. This could be problematic. We'll leave it there. I'll get rid of that. Then just a little bit of clear view and contrast. A little bit of push in the shadows. All right, I'm going to call it there. Well, let me fix... Let me see if I can just fix this shirt a little bit. Okay. And his hands are a little bit red. Maybe shift it just a little bit. There we go. Yeah, this light, I'm going to try one more time on this light. I'd have to do it in smaller pieces though. Photoshop's good at like removing stuff like this. You just do some sort of AI remove, right? Oops. Let's see how that came out. That looks like crap. So I'm going to do one more layer. Like that. That was a train wreck. I'm just gonna have to leave it. All right, let's export that. This would be a good example too of exporting versus looking at the preview itself. Oh wait, when I reset all the let me just fix this shirt one more time. This one should be a little bit lower too. Why does this not? There we go. um, Heather's asking, can I crop it down? I'd have to crop to a 16 by 9. So just to give you an idea, if I go to 16 by 9, I can probably do it like that. But that looks a little cramped, like a little tight. It feels like everybody's like, it feels like the ceiling's only this high. So, but yeah, I see what you're saying. But anyhow, let's go ahead and reset this and compare. All right, so there's the original, a little underexposed, and then here's the edit. So a couple of key things, right? You know, the distortion and perspective correction, brightening up the people's faces and then eyes a little bit, and then you know, adjusting the white balance in the background here, because this blue light is casting blue onto them, but not onto the people in the front. People in the front have a very warm light hitting them. So I had to just adjust for that. Excuse me one second. Um, Oh, sorry, the audio was off. I was coughing and sneezing and everything just a minute ago, so I turned the audio off. But what I was saying is I need to fix the eyes. They were a little bit too bright on her. And then there's a little bit of shine on their face. So I I used the healing brush at about 40–50% to brush out the highlight, the shine. And now if we compare, yeah, her eyes are much better now. But yeah, this person's not shiny. Everything looks good. It's a beautiful family. All right, sorry, I spent a lot of time on that, but people always take a little extra time sometimes, right? Okay, let's see. This one's from Heather. Oh, that's cool. Got some storks or whatever. Look at all these birds sitting on the poles. I love this. Let me apply basic preset. And we gotta straighten the horizon. Maybe, yeah, the auto horizon's pretty good. Feels like a bit too much. Right about there. Composition wise, I'm thinking get rid of this like foreground of these shadows of the dock. Get rid of a little bit of the negative space on the left. And yeah, a little bit, let me see. I think right about there is right. And then let's spread the light a little bit more. I gotta, sometimes it's hard to grab the control point. I have to zoom all the way in. All right. Wonder if that's gonna do it. Hmm. It's not doing exactly what I was thinking. Let me move out a little bit. Okay. That's too much. Okay. And then let me do a control line, a new mask, and just make this water down here with clear view. Micro contrast. Yeah, I think that'll do. I don't think there's much else needs to be done here. Maybe on a global scale, just pull the blacks in a little bit. A little bit of clear view and micro contrast. I think that's all that needs to be done here. Basically just a slight crop. So, oops. Uh-oh, hold on. There we go. So here's my edit on the left. Basically, I just cropped a 16 by 9 and then pulled the blacks in a little bit. I think the 16 by 9 works. And straighten the horizon. But yeah, pretty nice. Because the only thing here was just this one pier or whatever this is here in the front that I didn't like. So just cropped it out basically and got rid of some of the negative space on the left side. Okay, let's go. Let's see what else we got. Something from Wrinkled Snow, Soul Sniff or something. Oh, they're putting out a fire. Ooh. Wow. That's a shame. Okay. Cool shot, but yeah, fires are terrible. Apply basic preset. And just go with a vertical. Need a slight tilt. Right about there. Because what I want is the smoke is kind of goes out right to about this corner. And this corner is filled. And then we have the action here. Let's try. A couple of control points. With some clear view and micro contrast, just to make the smoke a little more defined. Let's make the water a bit darker. We'll do another control line. Move the control point to the brighter area. Again, clear view and pull the blacks in. Oops. We'll do a little bit of highlight recovery. Just, let me see. Yeah, that's better. And then let's add a little bit of specular to the water. Maybe I can use a brush. Selective brush. And just push the highlights. Oops, not that much. And micro contrast. right there. Then let's add a little bit of brightness to the flames down in here. Excuse me. Bring some of the color back. Sorry. Getting quite the effect that I want down here, but let's do that. Okay, let's add a little bit of light to this boat. So we can see it. And then I'm going to just darken the background a little bit. I don't know the best way to do this. Maybe like this. Add a little bit of light to the front. Add some clear view. Get a little warmth in there. I really want to do something with that flame. Let me add a small Sorry, I think that's it. Let's export that. And we'll compare that when it comes out. Yeah, I'm still sick, Heather. Oh, I might have to cancel my trip tomorrow. I'm supposed to go out with about 8 people. But I don't want to give them this cold. I almost checked myself into the hospital on Monday. It was really bad, and I decided against it. All right, let's reset and compare. All right, so I think the vertical works better because it really gives a sense of how tall the smoke is. And then just bringing out the details and the various colors in here, the orange, the whites, and the grays, I think is a nice contrast in here, making the water stand out going here, and then just bringing the cloud out to the corner here on the left side for framing. I think that works pretty well. So there's the final edit. versus the original. Okay, let's see where we're at. Wow, we still have a lot here. Okay, I'm gonna try and do one more. I'm not sure I can finish because I'm going downhill here with my cold. So the next one here is this fisheye one. So let's see what we have here. Okay, I think this will be pretty straightforward. So let's do a basic preset. And this is from an Insta360. So this is a JPEG, so my range is going to be a little limited. But let's try smart lighting. And let's see if we can get any detail back in the sky. A tiny bit. I don't think anything else needs to be done here. It's just brighten up the shadow area with the smart lighting. So we'll just do a side by side because this is a JPEG, no need to export it. But I think that's all this picture needed, was just to brighten the shadow area and temper the highlights a little bit. Okay, that one was fast. Let me do another one here. This one's from Claire. So I have a reflection. Apply basic preset. Need a little bit of perspective correction. I'm going to come in really tight. Maybe. I do that. Just trying to think of a way to frame this. Because all the action is right here. We don't have enough of the architecture to really balance the center with the rest of the scene. So do we just simplify it down to just the one window? Hmm. I really like the trees up here. I like the branches. Let me try. Hmm. I'll just go with this. Uh, okay. Maybe bring these pots in a bit. I love this reflection, but I just can't frame it properly. I think that's all I can do. Um, yeah, sorry, Claire. That's the best I can do. Because with respect to composition and editing, there's not much I can do here. I'm just not seeing it. But I love this tree. I love this. But the way it's framed inside this architecture, I really need to see the entire scene to maybe think of a better way to compose this, to capture this one tree. Uh, to either make the tree sort of an accent to the entire scene, because it's really hard having just partial reflections of it to make it the subject, right? But I see what you were going for. I like it, but I can't think of any way to compose it, unfortunately. And editing wise, all I can do is just bring out a little contrast in the window. Okay. Oh wow. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more. Um, what I need to do, I need to take a break. Um, And then I'll come back maybe, ooh, I got somewhere I have to be though. All right, let me just try and finish these. Okay, so this one is from Paul. So we need to do a little perspective correction. Do a basic preset first. Let's see if the perspective correction, yep, that worked. And I'm going to make the water, I'll just use a control line. Make the water a little bit more choppy and a little more clear. Maybe shift it a little bit blue. Ooh, not that much. Just a tad. Tad cooler. And then, let's see. Composition-wise, I think we're okay. It's pretty well balanced. But I'm going to try and, let me try and, hmm. Let me see if I can kick up the colors a bit. And then let's just add some light over here. Micro contrast. I'm going to pull the sky in a bit with clear view. Maybe push the highlights a bit. Oops, not that much. Okay. I'm wondering if a different crop would work here. I like the water. Okay. And then let me just hit some of the splashes here. Make a little tighter luma. Okay. Hmm. I think I can get most, I need this part, but I don't need this part. Mm, that's not working for me. I think that's it. Um, so just for the sake of time, I'm not going to export this one. Uh, I think that's it. Just saturate the colors back here, add a little bit of light right here, and then highlight the speculars in the water. And I think that works. Um, so, because it's a little bit flat right here, right? But I think that works. And just compress the scene a little bit and make it a 16 by 9. Okay. Let's see. Shakab sent his edit. This is Shakab's edit of a butterfly, but let's see. I probably won't do much different because it's pretty tight crop. So let's just try some smart lighting. Maybe just make it a little brighter. And some micro contrast and clear view. And just give a little touch on the highlights here. Come in a little closer. And let's see if we can temper. Whoops, I need to make a new mask. Let's just desaturate this maybe a little bit. Bring the highlights in. Hmm. Oops. Okay. I think that's it. So export that. And we'll do a side by side. Once that's done exporting. So not too much different than what Shakab did. It's already pretty tight crop. The problem is you're shooting through a leaf or something that's kind of blocking the butterfly. And it's not really exactly a perfect specimen, right? But if we can, if we zoom in, the main thing I did was try to accentuate the highlights here on the eyes. And it did bring out some more detail. I think that looks pretty good. Okay. Um, and we can compare. So my edit here on the left, Shacabe's edit. So Shacabe cropped in tighter. That was a good call. Crop off this part here. But I think, yeah, the only key difference is I just did a little bit more work right here. That's the only difference. And a little more saturation. Okay, let's see. We got one here from Sir. My basic presets looks like a nut hatcher. Let's just crop in nice and tight here. Let's see. Let's see if we can AI select the bird. We'll make him a little bit brighter. Fill in some of the shadows. Let's add a little bit of light in here. Maybe right there. Oh, okay. See if we can fix the eyes. Just a tiny bit. So clear view, micro contrast, and a little push in the shadows. Okay. And then let's just drop the exposure a tiny bit. Add a little bit of warmth. Get rid of some of the green. Maybe add a vignette. Invert. Okay. Okay, let's export that and we'll do a comparison. Okay, so reset. All right, so here's the original on the right. Just a little bit underexposed. And there's the edit. So basically just had to brighten the bird up and the little area around where he's feeding. And if we do a split, you can see it's quite a bit of difference. Just adding a little bit of light, but really nice detail on the bird. Okay. So do the next one. This one's from a pod foddy. Okay. So we'll do a basic preset. Let's just make this a basic rule of thirds crop. Like that. Maybe a little tighter. A little tighter. Just balance that. Okay, right there. Perfect. So now we got a nice split or balance, I think. And then let's just add a little bit of light to this fly. Some clear view and micro contrast. And then we'll just add a little vignette, and I think we're done. Invert that. Let me just add a little bit of color here. Just give a little vibrancy. Okay. We'll export that. And we'll do a side-by-side. Did that export that quickly? Oh, this was a JPEG. That's why. Son, how did that export so quickly? Okay, so here's the original on the right. I think you were shooting with a kit lens, so you didn't have a lot of zoom. So we just kind of cropped in much tighter, just right in here. And then add a little more light to the fly because it was a little bit dark. Might be easier to see this way. But yeah, there's still good detail there, even from the little kit lens, right? So if I slide that, you can see how much I cropped out and just made it much tighter. So that's the final edit. Okay. Okay, last three. I can do this. We have some leaves here. So we'll do a basic preset. And I need a little bit of warmth here. And let's crop in something like that. Just add a little bit of light in the shadows and the reds. Some clear view. And give it a little vibrancy. Oops. Pull the blacks in just a little bit. Let me see. Yeah, that's good. And there's a little bit of green down here, so let's work with that. I wonder if I can. No, it doesn't really need much there. Okay. And then let's accentuate over here. This is a little bit of blue. So we'll just cool that off just a little bit extra. Maybe some clear view. It doesn't really need anything. Okay, I think that's it. So I don't really need to export this one. But yeah, just a slight crop and warm it up a little bit and then bring in some of the reds in the background here. And I think that's all this needed. Yeah, I think that's it. Okay. Let's see. All right, have a bird. This one's a little bit soft. Let me see. Apply basic preset. Do a square crop. Like that. I think we need just some global clear view. Yeah. And then let's add a little bit to the eyes. Some clear view and micro contrast. A little bit of a push on the shadow. And then let me just push the shadows a little bit on the bird itself. Okay. Maybe give it a little bit more on the highlights here. Oops, a little bit of warmth. Some micro contrast. Okay, let's add a vignette. We need to add a little bit of shadow. Pull a little bit of shadows in up here. Not much there. Okay. All right, let me export that. Yeah, side by side. All right, so here's the original on the right. It looks like you have a little bit of fog or something on your lens, possibly, like a little condensation. Because maybe you brought your camera in from inside to outside or vice versa. But anyway, so we had to bring back a lot of contrast because of this light mist or this very slight haze on the image. But I think this came out pretty good. If we do a slider, you can see, well, let's just do side by side. You can see we brought a lot of the details back, right? especially in the feathers. Like, look at the shoulder here versus the shoulder over here. It's a huge difference. But okay, that came out nice. All right, let's see. I think there's just one more, right? Yeah, some fungus here from, I think this was John. Okay, so we'll do a basic preset. And, oh, composition, maybe we'll go to just simply a square. Whoops. If it'll fit, yeah. And I'm going to add some micro contrast, maybe clear view. Let's adjust the white balance. There's a little bit too much green. So I'm going to shift it there, give it a little warmth. And let's just bring the brightness down in here. Just sort of manually draw in the vignette. Okay, and then let me just temper the highlights a little bit there. I'm going to use the loop tool just to see if I can squeeze just a tiny bit more detail. Let's see, we need to find an area. Let's do, yeah, this area's in here, good. Let me go over here to the unsharp mask. Interesting. I don't see the optics module. Did I not load the optics module? Oh, sorry. Let me download this optics module. I was like, why is it? It should be sharper because this is a 30 macro. All right, let me install the optics module. Without the optics module, you lose a lot of sharpness. All right, there we go. Now let's go in here with the loop tool. Oh yeah, much better. So I may not need to do, just increase the radius here a little bit. Yeah, that's looking good. Okay. Color-wise, I'm just going to push the reds a little bit, maybe. Reds and oranges. Well, let's try red directly. Just a little bit of push on the red there. Okay, let's export that. And then we'll compare. And I think I saw Paul said he sent his version in. Let me take a quick look. Yeah, very similar edit. And then Heather sent one in too. Oops. So we'll look at your edits compared to mine in just a second. But John. All right, so here's the original on the right. And here's the edit on the left. So I just basically gave it more contrast and pop, saturation, and just painted in using control points, a little bit of a vignette. But we can do a split view and just really look at the details that came in. And of course the noise reduction, right? So I think that came out pretty good. Okay, let's take a look at, I think this was my edit. Where's, oh, here it is. Oh, that's cool. So I think other than the horizon correction, I think you're good. I like this crop. I kind of like this silhouette of this thing right here. But yeah, they're both really nice. And then let's see, Paul. That's mine. And this was Paul's. So yeah, very similar other than the crop. But you made the water much bluer than I did. And yeah, the overall the image a little bit cool, on the cooler side temperature, right? As I can see it all in here. This building, all of this. But yeah, this was a tough composition to get sort of this water rushing in, and then all of the colorful little huts there and everything. Yeah, Chris, if you want to send it in, go ahead. We can take a look at what you did compared to what I did. And then I'm going to have to call it because I have to, wow. Can't believe I'm losing my voice here a little bit. Okay. Let's see. I see, oh, there it is. You were freezing, Paul? Okay. Okay, I got your edit, Chris. Let's do a quick side by side. Just have to find it. So this is that's Chris's, that's mine. So, okay, so here's my edit. I did the square crop, and there's Chris's on the right, I believe, right? Let me just make sure. Yeah. So I think the main difference, other than I did a square crop, is you can see primarily the difference is, I brighten the bird up a lot more because there's still a lot of detail that's inside here that this pattern on the front of the bird. And I think, yeah. And then I warmed up the right side because, there's sun hitting the bird directly, but I'm not feeling that warmth, right? So that's why I warmed up the right side and brightened it even more. And whenever I add light, you know, by brightening things, I tend to add a little bit of warmth too, if we're outside, right? Whatever the color temperature of the light is, usually it's warm light. If we're outside, I try to add a little warmth whenever I add a little brightness. Um, but okay, I think we're all set. So everyone, thanks for joining me today for another edit, and thanks for sending your images in. It's my pleasure and honor to work on them. Hopefully you picked up a few ideas, and if you're thinking about DxO or want to buy me a coffee, I have links down below, all that good stuff to support the work that I do here. I try to do edits every week. Um, wow, I can't believe I need to take a break though. So you guys, I'm sorry for being so sick today. But hopefully I'll be feeling better on Sunday for a regular photo chat. So I hope to see you guys all there. Happy New Year. Have a great rest of your weekend, a good week, a good year, happy life. Thanks again for joining me, and I hope to see you all again soon.